It's really a shame that this movie came out as bad as it did, because I really wanted to like this movie. I really, really did. Not just because Jordan Peele has his stamp of approval on it, but mostly because, well, it looks pretty cool in terms of a horror film, and it looks pretty menacing and very unsettling in a good way. And it just came out so clumsy, and let's just say it fumbled its way to its release, and it definitely shows. Like, this movie, it's not the worst thing I've ever seen, but it's also very confused in terms of what it wants to be and how it wants to present itself. So the movie follows a character named Cameron Cade, who's basically a rising star in the NFL, but suffers a bad injury due to someone hitting him in the head with a crowbar. Maybe an obsessed fan of some kind. He gets these staples on his head, which kind of represent a football, which is pretty cool symbolism, and it seems like his career might come to an end. But through the aid of his actual hero, Isaiah White, played by Marlon Wayans, who also played in the NFL, tries to whip him back into shape in order to get him back to where he needs to be. But it turned out to be more than what he bargained for, leading him into a deadly rabbit hole that he may not escape from. Now, judging from the Rotten Tomatoes score, you would probably think this is probably the worst thing you'll ever see in your entire life. Probably worse than any bad Adam Sandler comedy that ever existed. Honestly, I can't even say it's horrible. I mean, it's bad. It's a bad movie, but can I say it's horrible as the Rotten Tomatoes score says? Not necessarily. There are some things that they actually do really well, like that honestly complement the film's overall tone. So, for example, the cinematography is very well done. The lighting, the set design is so beautifully horrifying to look at. The performances are actually pretty decent as far as it goes. And honestly, Marlon Wayans' performance is probably the best part of the whole film. The way he switches off from his welcoming, kind, and cute demeanor to a dark and menacing killer instinct type of character, that was honestly a good choice for him to do in terms of the performance. And the main character does pretty decently, I guess. He does what he's supposed to do. He's not terrible, but he's not exactly memorable either. Marlon Wayans kind of steals the show, to be honest. And like I said, the visuals that are shown in this film are actually done really well in terms of just visual flair. But part of the problem is that I think it's just there for visual flair and for shock value. And I'm not saying this just because it has an R rating. There's got to be a lot of blood, there's got to be a lot of gore, a lot of swearing or whatever, like just because it's a horror film. Honestly, I like that kind of stuff. But at the same time, there has to be some form of correlation or connection to what's going on with the main character, considering this is a psychological horror film. What I initially thought it was going to be a football version of Jacob's Ladder. Like, if you've ever seen Jacob's Ladder, Tim Robbins in the film gets hit by like a bunch of gas that causes him to hallucinate and make him see horrible images. And he's not only suffering from that gas that caused him to hallucinate, but also through his PTSD in the Vietnam War. So all that extra bit of trauma just was only causes him to question his own sanity. And I thought that's what they're going to do with him after that brain injury that he got. So he starts to question whether or not he sees, like, what he sees is real or not. And I thought that was going to go somewhere. But most of the imagery that happens that could question whether or not it's real or not doesn't really come back to the film, and it's just really shown briefly and then it's completely forgotten in the next scene over. Granted, we get another Marlon Wayans crazy ass performance, but at the same time, I wish there was some form of connection with it. Like at the beginning, he gets hit in the head by a crowbar by an obsessed fan inside of a weird costume that's a mascot per se, and they kind of make a symbolistic thing with mascots being the original pioneers of football, but they were more violent per se. And I thought that was going to go somewhere, but again, they only brought it up a couple times, and it just never goes anywhere. They try to bring it back to have the character's last final word, but it's just kind of a sloppy execution, and it really doesn't come back together in a satisfying way that what I'm mostly used to with these Jordan Peele related films. Even though Jordan Peele didn't direct this film, the director's name is Justin Tipping, so based on everything that's done with this film in terms of his visual flair, isn't a bad director. He's done a good film before this film that came out about 9 years ago, but this is kind of a sloppy execution with him, and I really wanted to like this film just based on how it looks, even despite the Rotten Tomatoes score. But it just really fell flat for me, and that honestly really sucks. But I still have hope in terms of the director actually pulling through with another great film, whether it be under Jordan Peele's wing or not. I still think he can pull off a really great film that can really shine through in the best way. But unfortunately, this isn't one of them. And I'm really sad to say that I don't recommend this film to anyone. But if you really want to see it, I would say just wait for it to come out on streaming or something, because I wouldn't say it's worth your $14 movie ticket. It really sucks to have to say something like that.